Grace.
Hello, folks. How you doing today?
Fine. How are you, teacher?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we
Ileana can
can.
hear you.
So we have 12 students connected. What about the other ones? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Listen, today we're gonna continue talking about the differences or the related that we have between assessment, testing, and evaluating, okay? And today, some of you are gonna discuss something that you have prepared. But before this, I would like to make a little review about the things that we were discussing in the previous classes. And who can remember what is assessment? Do you think that assessment is more extended than testing and includes more components, even
Uh,
including testing as well? Do you think that?
Assessment is a process for gathering evidence of the student's learning. So yes, it's an extended process.
So also we can say that assessment, it will help to evaluate its skills, abilities, and performance for everybody.
This, excuse me, the sound is returning. So the rest of you, please turn off the microphone. Thank you so much.
Very good. So when we talk about meaningful and constructive feedback using different procedures, do you think that this is related to testing, to evaluating, or to assessment?
Well, in my case, I think according that we were discussing, it's related to assessment because the assessment it's like the systematic collection review. We use many quality, quantity data. There are many things that involve an assessment. Testing, we are just specifying some kind of things. We go directly with an objective. On the other hand, I think that assessment is more complex. We are talking about testing, evaluating, achievement, and many kind of things. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, you're right. So something interesting that caught my attention is when you said that assessment include many things. What about the other peers? What are those many things?
Yes, I don't know if you heard me before that I mentioned like skills, abilities, and performance about, let's say, the topic that you are teaching us.
Okay, very good, very good. Do you think that the teachers can assess all the time or just at the end of the course?
For me, it will
I
be all
think
the
that it
time.
will be all the time.
It's all the time, okay?
It's because
It's all,
assessment, it's involved. When I say many things, it's because we have like initial assessment. When you try to see the level of your students, that you have planning assessment, your activity assessment. Then we have our decision feedback, which is the washback that we were talking about previously. And at the end, we also have review of progress, which is part of the assessment. And then we are testing our students. So we are making all the time assessment, but in different levels to our students.
Okay, very good. And when we talk about a method, when we require some method, that is assessment or evaluating or testing.
Hmm. The method will be the assessment, I think.
Caroline, what about you? What do you think? So when we require a method, so that is related to testing or assessment. Allison, Alex. Beverly.
For me, teacher, a method can be used in a assessment, but only this method can be evaluated by writing. I mean, if this method is not interacting method as we are seeing the previous classes, I think it could be or not.
Okay. So in the previous classes, we also were discussing about the types of assessment of types of tests that we have the three most common that are placement test, achievement test, and proficiency test. I'm not going to discuss this because some of you are gonna present this just to make a refresh, right? And we were discussing as well that when we talk about assessments, we have the formal and informal ones, right? And we can also use some activities that can be formal, but not formative, right? Can be informal, but not summative. Summative is formal and formative are informal, right?
Right.
Okay, we're gonna end this review with a simple question, and I would like to listen to all of you. How are the teaching assessment and testing related? Listen to the question. How are teaching assessment and testing related?
I would say that both are related because both look for what would be evaluate, but also make a follow-up of the learning process. One would be informal, and the other would be formal, I would say. What was the question, teacher? One more time, please.
The question says, how are teaching assessment and testing related?
So I will say that it's related though, since the both of them is for making sure that what you're doing is being applied and your students are learning those. So assessment, you're gonna do it all of during the class to
Yeah.
know as you are doing right now for making sure that what you're teaching us, we have a basic knowledge about it, right? And testing, you're gonna prove the analysis at the end of the course, right? That we know already with solid basis.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. One
May
more
I-
opinion
may I-
about
may
the
I-
same question? Yeah,
May
Beverly?
I give my opinion?
Of course.
I think it's really related because first you need to teach maybe, for example, a topic. In that process that is considered the assessment, you will know if the student get that information, if they already learn about that topic, and at the end you can test. But first you have to teach. That is the process, the learning process. I think so that is always related.
Yeah, teacher,
I'm
Yeah.
agree. This exactly answer.
I am Eduardo. I don't know why GMX. Teaching assessment involved evaluating effectiveness of instructional method, materials, and overall teaching process. And testing, on the other hand, is a specific form of assessment that involves measuring a student knowledge, skills, or abilities. That's my point of view, teacher.
Okay.
I have something here that I think it's
Yeah.
important, teacher. When it comes to testing and assessment, I think both of them are different in the things that assessment are individual. You provide feedbacks, and you know that in the evaluation it's the other way. However, for me, both of them requires criteria. You need to use measures, and also both of them are evidence or the learning that you are providing to your students. So the similarities that they have at the end is the objective, right? Because
Yeah.
they are different way, but both of them are the evidence of your students learning, and also both of them use the measures and the same criteria that the teacher is giving to the students.
Exactly, because based on what the teacher had taught before, the student will give an answer based on the what the student learned before. So you can test it after that information the student received before.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So let's move on to the other slides. So here we have some of you that are going to explain something about this one. Yeah, it's your turn, Ileana.
Okay, in this occasion, guys, we are going to make our presentations. The Instagrams are Jessica, Graciela, Alicia, and my person, Ileana. We are glad to present to you, in this case, what's assessment and everything that had to do with assessment. Please welcome. Jess.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna start with a small presentation. As you see, we have assessment that is involved all of things, the progress and maturity goal that we have, result. We can move on to the agenda, please.
Yeah, Jesse, you can change the slide. You have the control now. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, in this case, okay, Jess, please.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm back. I don't know what happened with the internet connection. I will present here with Graciela because I know she's her and I'm gonna leave my name.
Can you hear me? Okay, guys, I would like you to turn off your microphone, please, and let the Jess be the only one to speak.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys and teachers. So we're gonna start with this. It's our agenda. We have the purpose and characteristics for all of the tasks that we have. We're gonna also involve some situations that we can use this type of test. We have some examples for the kind of test that we have. And we're gonna explain a little bit about difference between Octotec and Socrates assessment, direct and indirect testing. And last but not least, we're gonna describe point and integrative testing. So we can move on. So as we discussed, we have so many type of things you can see on the presentation. Can you please on the slide, teacher? Okay, thank you. So we base all of the types of tests. I base on the video. I don't know if you're watching that, but there are a lot of information. You can see that the first one is this is one of the bases of the tests that we see on the schools and every place. Right?
Try to speak louder. I can't hear you.
Now can you hear me, teacher?
Yeah,
I believe me
now
that.
yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. So the different test is something that we see in a lot of places like at the college, schools, etc. Right? This is in order to making sure the student knowledge about how the student know about the learning on a specific period. I will say that this is something that you are looking right now, right? This is a assessment test that you're doing. Of course, we have secondly the diagnostic test. But this is based more on what a student already know without an explanation in order that there is set up a goal to the student what we need to teach, right? We can move on with the third one that will be the placement test. This is something very common in academia schools. You can make a placement test to see how is your level education placement any career, right? That you already have a knowledge and you can prove them. We have the proficient test that is similar to the placement test, is in order to making sure that skills about the language that you have. It could be like beginner, you can be advanced, and we have aptitude tests that, as you know, this is something very common right now here in Nicaragua at all college are doing them in order to make sure that potentials, abilities, and skills that we have as a person, right? So we can move on to see some characteristics of this test. Could you please move on, teacher? Could you move on the slides?
Move on, please, teacher. Or slide it.
I don't know if you can hear me, teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have the
Okay.
characteristics there.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So we have some characteristics of them. I based those on the video. Those are of the definition, right? We have the assessment test that is typical, typically a standard when between your two compare as students, right? So you can make peers and to see how the knowledge for the individual is. We have
Jesse, could you please speak louder?
yeah, I'm just thinking about it really like to try. I don't know what the
Jessica is speaking, right? I can't hear you.
Yeah, she's trying. Jesse, maybe you can disconnect the headset or put the speakers. Maybe it's better.
Liana, can you talk a little bit about the characteristics that we have for the types of, for the kind of tests that we have?
Do you say something, teacher? Can you hear me?
Yes, Jessica was explaining the purpose of the types of tests. And here we have the characteristic. Could you please explain those characteristics for each one?
Yes, I can. So in the case of achievement, it's a test. For example, how just say we are using from a base up on a class basis or basic class, and it means that you will to post or write what are those achievements in this test, what you receive. And the second one is the analysis, is based exactly on the analysis about how so long or how much, probably measuring the knowledge of the students in this case. And in the number three, the placement test is based on about the knowledge and the skills where the student must be give some answer to complete this information about what they are learning about. In the case of proficiency tests, we're talking about some abilities where the student must show some abilities based on that knowledge too, right? Every one of that is totally based on what the student had learned, and give this it's not an example. I have to say, I don't have the word right now, but to have to show or express that all the knowledge that a student got before are being applying in the practical in the classroom. For example, if the student is testing. And in the last one, number 5, in this case, or in this point, the student will show how it's going to change or made a mix about the knowledge the abilities and all the things or topics where the student is weak. And in this case, the teacher will act or work with the student to understand much better in a specific topic, for example. So in this case, characteristic are talking about the summarizing and in a big position where the student is according with the teach before. Do you hear me? Hi.
Yeah,
Hello,
of course,
can you hear
I'm
me?
listening to you.
Okay, this is
You move
Graciela. I'm
on.
going to continue. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to talk about each type of situation where you can apply each of the tests. The examples are going to be given
Okay.
next, but at this moment I have just going to share some situations. For the achievement test, one of the situations that this can be applied to is at the end of the semester to evaluate how well students have grasped the material covered. This can be used to make sure that all the information that have been covered during the curriculum is being learned and applied. For the diagnostic test, this could be something applied to a specific topic in which many students have failed. For example, if a student is failing in in a specific for example, for the English class in the explanation of the um tense, for example, from past tense, this could be applied to make sure that the students will be practicing this more, and this way is applying the diagnostic test. For the placement test, this is something that I actually had when I started studying at the Academia Europea. I was there and they test me to check if I could be in the basic, an intermediate, or an advanced language course. So this is an example of the what this can be applied to. And for proficiency tests, I would say that this has a lot to do with the placement test because it can be applied as well at the beginning of the course to check the basic knowledge of the student and also to place them.
Okay, very good.
Next step. Okay, hi guys, good afternoon. So now I'm going to make emphasis to give you examples of the test. I think it's the best option for us in order to understand the theory, in this case, making applying this. So in this case, the proficiency test, we have TOEFL, ELTS are examples of this kind of test because proficiency tests often have a significant backlash effect on the classroom as learners. This is focused on areas to preparing the test items. Definitely, if you can see, TOEFL have multiple choice, computer-based test, academic passage with challenging vocabulary. So of course, definitely this involves how it will be a proficiency test. Now, when it comes about achievement test, I want to move on to the pay, please. I don't know what's right now taking care of the presentation. Jesse, can you please move on? Thank you. So we have the achievement test. Most of the time we have a spelling test, time arithmetic test, map quizzes are all examples of achievement tests. Each measure how well students can demonstrate their knowledge of a particular academic subject or skills. If you can see that, we have a simple sample question, like if we let a supermarket car downhill, what kind of motion does it have? So you have A, B, and C. So those are the achievement tests. Most of the time, we have also the APA test. This is something that it's not in our, we don't give a lot of explanation, but in this kind of things, APA test is similar to the achievement because we also make sample question. right? That's one. And actually, we make achievement tests all the time. As Graciela was explaining before, that's something that we usually make in the high school. Then we have achievement test. Well, I'm sorry, the diagnostic test. Can you please move to the next screen? The majority of diagnostic tests are quite limited in their scope. This is generally because language schools and other institutions, guys, wants to give quick short tests which can be marked easily. We have objective, simple right or wrong answer. That would be all. That's diagnostic test. For example, what's your name? Here, there is no a variety in the answer. It have to be one, are, or is, right? So you have, where are you from? Where are you live? Where are you come? So that's the diagnostic test. We have this example because most of the time they include checklists and pretest. So this is an example. And at the same time, we have this in also actually with our teachers in the university, we have diagnostic tests. We have that. Okay, so now we have the placement test. The placement test, this is my example, which is the TOEIC score interpreted. The placement test gives the student enter an educational institution to measure their overall knowledge. This can be in various subjects before assigning the students their aptitude appropriate level courses. In my case, I have taken the TOEIC already. And in this case, TOEIC includes many things. But the placement test is not giving you, you don't have to go just with the object. What is the objective? Like, for example, you have many areas, like speaking, reading, grammar, listening, but you don't care about the area. What you care is about giving a testing level to your student. If you can see here in the TOEIC, it's interpreted with numbers. So you give high, advanced, advanced, beginner one. If you are, for example, above 405, you are an intermediate. So I guess here, previously in our university, Del Valle, it have to be a minimum for 450. I'm not sure, but that's a placement test. It gives you a level to recognize what is your goal, correct? And last but not least, I'll explain the aptitude test. I'll give you an example because Grace already explained what is the objective and what it consists about. I'm just giving you the example to be more aware of what is it about. So the aptitude test, I'll be honest with you guys, this is more complex. In my case, I think it's the most difficult part because it's not that common, I think. The language aptitude, this aptitude refers to the potential that a person has for a learning language. In this case, we are making this in English, right? So if you can see that, we take into many steps, phonetic script, spelling clues, word and sentence. Actually, there's one in general that it's called MLATA, which means Modern Language Aptitude Test. And this measures individual aptitude for learning in the foreign language. So it takes how much it take to take about this, how this the time that you were taking, and most of the time is taken in a computer because it needs to be measured immediately. So that's another example of an aptitude test. Thank you.
Can you hear
If
me?
someone is speaking now, yes, I can hear you, Lena.
Excellent. So my microphone was giving some problems. So move on, please, teacher. Next slide, please. Move on. Would you mind to move on, please, teacher? Hello?
We can hear you, Liana.
Teacher, are you there?
You can
Yes.
continue, Liana.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna
remove
make
the slide, please,
a
the slide up.
pause. I'm gonna make a pause here because I got a questions related to aptitude test. Can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can hear you, teacher.
Okay, do you know any places where they can apply these tests?
What is the question, sorry?
If you know some places that they can apply this kind of test, aptitude.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Aptitude test most of the time is not taken into account into a public institution because most of the time they don't care about your aptitude. They just go with your availability. I've been studying in scholarships that they are from the embassy from America, and yes, they do care about the time that you have in order to have an spontaneous idea about an specific situations. So I'm not sure about those organizations, but most of the time it's for courses because they care about the short time that you are gonna be able to learn the language. So that's why they enter the aptitude test, to know how much or how faster are you gonna be involved in the language. So for me, it's for courses that they implement this kind of test.
Okay, so let's continue.
Move on. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the objective and subjective assessment. In this case, we're going to see some differences that exist between them. So objective assessment make reference to facts, verified information, and make or take decision. That's mean that it's based about presence, about science, about what the student had learned before, but not in a general, not in general, if not what the student read before in a book or things that the teacher had taught before, right? Um, and the different here, no, please go back at to the other slide, please. Thank you so much. This is a objective, right? They have to see with facts, verify information, make or take decision based on what the student had learned before. The subjective assessment may refer to personal opinion on verified information and to make decision. That's mean that, for example, to answer the suggestion test, the pupil or the student has to see his own words and expression, right? Whereas this answer or to answer objective test, the pupil, the student has to select his answer from among four or even more alternative, as Alice gave the examples before. The following tables sum up the next difference about this. Exactly. Thank you so much. We can see biggest difference about objective and subjective test or assessment. For example, objective has short answer and subjective long answers, right? Objective has close response and subjective open response. Objective has to see with mostly recognition, limited productions, and subjective may emphasize on the production on scene. The objective is difficult to write well, and the subjective is relatively easy to write. In this case, objective, quick and easy to grade, because you have followed a plan according to knowledge and according to questions, and you can score according of this plan and this plan or system or method of the teaching is using, right? And subjective is it's difficult to grade in this case because you have to see with the time consuming and integrated reliability. And for the last one, we had an objective work up front and suggested work post test, right? It's like a feedback. So in this case, in general, we can see that suggested. Silent, please. I listen a lot of noise. Okay, to finish my point, okay, suggested is based on your opinion or the student opinion, based on the student belief, based on the feelings, based about the perception of the environment, right? For example, if I say beauty, she is beauty, but beauty in this case is subjective because what is beautiful for me, it's probably is not beautiful for the other person, right? The taste, in the case of taste, food, for example, for pizza can be delicious for me, but for other person it's probably not delicious, right? It is suggested because it's based on what you're feeling in this moment or what you're watching in that moment, but not in the science exactly. And objective is based on facts and measurable data, right? For example, if the teacher make a test, this test is based on a method plan or method plan that there can be a score, right? You can be a score to the student for that the teacher is asking with a specific question. If the teacher say, for example, I'll give you an example. As you said before at the beginning, what is a segment? He was not exactly waiting for an environment answer, right? Based on the knowledge before. If not, he was waiting for a specific answer based on the concept. This is my explanation for today.
Okay, thank you, Ileana. Thank you very much.
Okay, now can you hear me, teacher? I move on if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So, oh no, could you go back please to direct and indirect testing? Okay, thank you. Okay, so you have here direct and indirect testing. As you see here, this refers for assessing person performance for that direct testing. They will be for the target skill and knowledge of the area through observable tests. For speaking, we can say that we have interviews and presentations like this one in order to see that speaking of this person. Of course, for writing, we have some essays, questions that you can ask to your students. We have for reading, we can use real reading material having to the student response question verbally or on a writing, right? For the listening, of course, we can involve to the direct or following oral direct questions to complete the task. Indirect testing, in the other hand, involve assessing the theory skill of the learner through the area test of questions. They could be by a test for multiple choice questions, like let's explain for you that I see that you saw some examples. We have paraphrasing, and also we have sentences reorder.